Hey, what's up everyone? Evil here with a short tutorial guide to explain the 6 different races that you can play as in Caravan Stories for the PlayStation 4. So assuming you've booted up the game and you've gotten to this point in the game where now you have to choose which race to start the story with, and you don't quite know which race to start with. Well, you're in luck, my friends. I'm here to explain to you the different races and give you some information about each one of them, and hopefully provide some information for you guys to make a sound decision on which race to start with and which race to play later on as well. So let's jump right into it. From left to right, we have the Lizardmen race. So this race is fairly new to the game as of the time of this recording, which is version 3.5.3 of the game. So Lizardmen or Lizard People were added in this current version. So they're new. Then right behind them we have the Orc class, and then in front of them we have the Gessi class, and then in the middle we have the Human class. Right next to that we have the Dwarf class, and then the Elf class slash race. Now I'm going to use class and race a little bit interchangeable here. It's because they kind of are sort of one and the same. So these are the 6 races that you can start the game with. Now, of the 6, 4 are immediately available to you when you first start the game. The 4 are the Orcs, the Humans, the Dwarves, and the Elves. The 2 that are restricted are the Gessi class and the Lizardmen class, or Lizard People class. These 2 classes are restricted because they are further in the storyline, and so the enemies and the difficulty will be much harder when you start these 2 classes or these 2 races. And so the game wants you to progress and learn the game mechanics through playing these 4 first, and then these 2 will be available afterwards. Okay, so I sort of mentioned it just a little while ago. You can actually play all 6 of these races through one playthrough. So it doesn't matter which race or class you start with first. You'll get to a certain point in the story where you'll be able to reincarnate, and once you reincarnate, you get brought back to the screen where you can choose a different race to start their storyline. So all the storylines will sort of merge together within the story, and I'm not going to spoil the story, but there's a certain point in the game where the races will come together, and that explains why you're able to kind of play each one of the stories in its part, and then have everyone together at a later time. Alright, so 4 available immediately, 2 are restricted. Alright, so let's talk about gender. So we have male and female genders for each one of the races. It doesn't matter which gender you choose. The stats for that class and race will be the same no matter if you choose male or female. So it's just a matter of preference whether you want to play as a male character or a female character. Alright, cool. Like I said, you'll be able to play all 6 of the races throughout the story, so don't worry too much about, picking the right choice at the very beginning. You'll be able to play them all. The difference between each one of the races is the role that they have. So if you're new to MMORPG, or if you're new to games that are role-based, let me explain a little bit of what that means. So each one of the class or race has a specific role. So if I click on the Orc here, I can see that I have a shield here, and this class is a tanker class. So tanks are good at drawing enemies, protecting the allies. They have high HP, high stamina. They're basically the meat shield. They take a lot of the enemy forces, and then allowing the rest of the party to do DPS damage or attacks from the rear flanks. So we have of the 4 races that we can start with, which are these 4, we have available to us 3 different roles. We have the tank role, which are the Orcs, and then the Humans. You can tell because they carry shields. Then we have the Elf class, which are magical attackers. So they are magicians. They do magic attack from behind, they don't have as much HP as stamina as the other classes because they're not supposed to get hit. They just do a lot of damage from the back ranks. And then we have the dwarf class here, which are called range or shooter. I think of them as just normal physical attackers. So then you have basically your tanks, your physical attacks, and your magical attackers that are available when you first start the game. The Gessi class inflict status effect. They are a little bit more interesting in their gameplay because they're... Now, I can't show you what they are because there are restrictions, like I said, to starting these two races here. But let me just explain briefly what they are. They are a class that's more known for status effects, so they'll inflict effects like confusion, sleep, poison, all that good stuff. The Lizardmen are the new class that are the attacker class. They will deal a strong amount of damage. You probably want them in the same line as the dwarves to do a good amount of damage to enemies, as the tanks are holding the enemy at the front line, if you will. Alright, so those are the 6 classes and their roles pretty much explained. Like I said, of the 4 races that you can start with, you can pick any one. It's just a preference up to you. They will converge at some point and you'll be able to play the other ones. The only thing that I will say is that the starting race or class that you play with is quite important, because during the gameplay you'll get to a point where you will be taught the loot box mechanics, and at that time the game is going to give you a free loot box that has 10 items in them, and the 10 items are a set piece of items, but they are specific to the race that you start with. So if you start with the human race, you'll get 10 items that are specific to the human race. If you start with the elf race, then you'll get elf specific gear and so forth. Now this set of gear is quite good. It will actually last you throughout much of the early, even into the middle portions of the game. And so you want to choose the race that you start with a bit carefully, because these are going to be your go-to people or characters that you're going to play a good portion of the game as, because they have such good gear. When you reincarnate, you'll be able to play as that race. So for example, let's say I play the human race, I get to the point in the story where I can reincarnate, and then I choose to play the elf race. At that time, when I restart as the elf race, once I get to a certain part of the story, which is not very far at all, just past the introduction, I'll get my caravan, and then once I have my caravan, I will have all the items and characters that I have accumulated in my human playthrough. And so once I have my caravan, I will have all the human characters, all the items, and all that good stuff available to me, as well as all the new characters and all the new gear and stuff that I'm going to be doing during my elf playthrough. And then again, once I reach a certain point in the story, I can reincarnate and play a different class or race. Let's say I do the orc race, I will have available to me the human and the elf items, gear, characters once I get my caravan. So that's how you build more characters and accumulate more items and collect all the characters throughout your playthrough. So that's why I say don't worry too much about which one you start with. You'll eventually get them all, and that's actually the fun part of the game. So that's pretty much it for the races and their roles. I hope you guys enjoyed this short tutorial. I'm going to be doing a little bit more of these tutorials to kind of help folks who are new to the game, folks who are getting into the game. I know there's not a lot of resources online to kind of explain this kind of thing, so I'd like to start this tutorial series, and this will be my first video. So hopefully you guys found this helpful. If you do, please hit that like, hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out a lot. And thank you again, and have a great day, evening. This is Evo. signing out. Peace.